Do we grieve what we feel we have lost, or do we learn to celebrate what we let go? Welcome back. Let's navigate a really meaty topic of the things we lose and gain along the way as we navigate a breast cancer journey. So, Dina, I'm interested in, as you think about your healing journey, which obviously is still going on.
Absolutely.
How would you characterize the things that you lost?
It's funny that you should ask that question because I've been doing a lot of soul searching lately with, working with my clients and even just for myself. And the word identity comes up. And I actually felt like I lost who I was or who I am because, as our audience has heard me say, being a nurse and being an EMT and being the primary caregiver, that's all I knew. That's who I am. And I actually felt like, now what? Now who I am? I've changed. I've changed drastically. I've changed, which I would think that you would probably feel the same way. I changed physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Like it all came rushing in. And I was just talking about this the other day on how when I heard the words remission, and so did everybody else around me, whether it was work, family, friends, whatever, they wanted the old Dina back.
Oh, yeah.
Dina, could you do this? Dina, let's do this. You name it. The entire gamut of Dina's back. She's okay. And then dump on her. Okay. And when we talk about gains in a little while, I'm going to talk about how I changed that into a gain.
Interesting.
Yeah, well, it wasn't easy. It truly wasn't. I struggled with my identity. Being the caregiver, now I'm being taken care of. And who am I? And that was just one of many. But Maggie, I know a lot about you, but I'm wondering if there's something that I don't know when it comes to what you felt you lost as you were going through this journey.
Well, there probably is, but the thing, that comes to mind right away, Dina, is I love how you said that you turn something into a gain, because when we think of these things that we lose, it is devastating up front. So when you think, like, for me, it was identity as well, because I used to just focus on taking care of everyone around me and not taking care of myself. And I also think about my work. I was addicted. That was my vice. I was a workaholic. And so the fact that I could no longer do that made me feel less than. And then identity-wise, to your point too, so there's the career aspect of that, depending on where you are in your career, if you can perform or not perform at the levels you are accustomed to, but then also how we look and feel physically, because I also felt like I lost some confidence because of the loss of hair, because when you're weak and you get a little more pale, you lose your eyebrows, your eyelashes, all those physical changes, right? But then also I lost strength. So I felt like my resilience, that whole feeling of weakness, did not sit well with me.
Well, that's understandable.
Yeah. And so I think, you and I both, I think identity characterizes a lot of it. The other thing I do feel that I lost was my ability to sort of hide behind what I call my 4 Ps. I spent my life pleasing, proving, performing, and producing. And I would just literally cycle through those things in my life and move, it was exhausting, but it was who I was.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow.
I feel like that was the biggest thing I lost. But when you look back at it, it was like, thank goodness I did. Which ties right to your point about turning it into a gain, right?
One of the other things, as you were talking, I realized, and it's amazing on how this journey, you kind of block things out. And then when you start talking to others who have gone through the process, other things start to surface. And while you were talking, I got this feeling that I lost faith in others. Because I had people in my life, believe it or not treat me well as I was going through this journey. And people who left me, didn't want to talk to me, didn't want to be around. So, like I said, as you were talking, I was just getting those, goosebumps, and it was just like something else is coming up. And it just popped in my head about, I'm a very trusting person. I want people to love me like I love them. And I had to let go of these couple of things that happened in my life because I started to lose faith in it. And I was just like, all right, somebody's telling me a story here or a lesson here or something I have to figure out. And I did. And once we go back into or start the gains here, I'll get into that a little bit more.
I think that's a brilliant point because I didn't even think about, like you said, until we start talking through this, right? and reflecting back on it. It's always healing to do so. And I feel like there were a lot of changes in the people, like in who I was close to and or who it was surprising who I ended up getting them either the most support or the most, even just the care and concern and all of that. Once you get to that point where we can finally allow that love and support in, the people that it came from surprised me.
Yes, it surprised me too.
And the people that it didn't maybe come from was also as equally as surprising, right? So,
yep.
And that's a hard one too, because as we've talked about in a previous episode, it's like in some cases, people just don't know how to deal with it. And so it's not a negative on them. It's not a, you are a bad person. It's that in some cases, they don't know how to. And that is what it is, right?
Exactly. And it's the point of not taking it personally. It has nothing to do with the person who's going through the journey. And unfortunately, most of us are like, what's wrong with me? How come they're not here? Or how come they're not talking? It's things like that. Yeah, absolutely.
Because you want things to be normal, right? In the beginning, especially, you want things to be normal. You want to be treated normal. You don't want to be viewed as weak and whatever. So Dina, based on those things, let's shift into gains. What things, when you look back, do you feel like you truly gained from this journey?
I actually gained clarity on making myself a priority.
Beautiful.
It wasn't easy. It took time. It took practice. It took positive self-talk and being able to set up my healthy boundaries and say no. And no really for many, many decades was not in my vocabulary.
Same here.
Like you said, One of the P's, people pleaser.
Yeah.
I said yes to everything and anything anybody threw at me. And it was like, no, I got sick, and I believe at times my body was telling me that I needed to take care of myself and that I came first. So the whole self-love and self-care, there were certain things that I learned how to do that I never did before. So whether that was journaling, taking a bubble bath, going outside in nature, and also really taking a look when somebody wanted the old Dina back. If they wanted me to do something, I got into the habit of saying, I have to check my schedule. I'll get back to you.
Even if you can buy a little time, right?
Because I would jump and say yes right away. And it's easier for some people out there, like my daughters and my husband. They have no problem saying no, especially if they don't want to do it.
Yep. My husband's the same way. My daughter's the same way. Yeah. It's like, no. Oh,
okay. Are you sure about that?
No is a complete sentence, but it's hard to use.
Yes. Yeah. So what I'd like our audience to know, Maggie, is what were your gains as you went through this?
For me, I don't even know what words to use to describe the immense love for myself. And I say immense because I'd never focused on it before. And so that shift to truly loving and, as you say, caring for me, because in order to create the space to heal, we've got to figure out what does that look like to give ourselves that space and to make ourselves that priority, right?
Exactly.
So for me, it started with huge intentionality around my schedule, because my schedule used to be controlled by all of the yeses, as you say, and taking everything on and just believing I'll get to what I need to get to in my time. I will always figure it out. And so really having some intentionality around my schedule and what my priorities were. And to your point, the boundaries, like figuring out what boundaries do I need to set now? And for me, it was like, if it's not a hell yes, it has to be a no.
Right.
So I really feel like I gained more meaningful connection with me. And it's interesting because connection is one of my core values, and as is compassion, but I focus on it again with my interaction with others, not my interaction with me. So to me, that has been like my hugest gain. And now, yep, to your point, it wasn't easy. No. And it's still not easy. I still have to hold myself accountable. I still, because it evolves and it changes. And I do feel like I need to be gracious with myself because I've grown a lot. I've come a long way. And I have practices in place, my healing habits that I cherish and have become non-negotiable, that help me keep a focus on that.
I am so glad you said the word non-negotiable, because as you were talking about those healthy habits, I'm going, this is non-negotiable. That's not.
Yeah.
And it's amazing on when you were talking about core values for a moment. One of mine is trust. And I had to learn to trust myself. I was very trusting of others.
Interesting.
And the point I'm trying to make is I had to trust myself to be okay, and nothing was going to disturb my surroundings when I said no.
Mm.
Your gut. If this is not feeling good, and whatever that looks like for somebody, because we're all different and we're all unique, but trust in yourself to make the decision for you. And I actually, like you said, it's ongoing healing.
Yep.
I say it all the time to myself, probably a few times during the day. Yeah, trust yourself. This is not something you want to do. Trust yourself to say no. Does it fit in your schedule? Does it serve you, or is it going to drain you?
And that's a great way to look at it, is does it serve you or does it drain you? And think about, like, energy levels as we navigate this are already at an all-time low.
Mm-hmm.
So being very mindful of those things that do drain us is a must. So that's interesting about the trust for self and trusting your gut.
Yeah, you were talking about truly going within and learning how to love yourself. Like, you really had to look at that. And that's what I had to look inside of myself.
Yeah.
You know, the trust.
Well, and going inside and figuring out that self-care and self-love. There are probably people out there that maybe we're good at self-love and self-care. But I think it's so key to know, or to recognize that it changes all the time, and it is so very unique to every single person, right? So it's really giving yourself the time and space to figure out what it looks like over and over and over again.
Right. And one of the things that I truly needed to do, and you might do this as well, is that things go on my schedule. Things go on my calendar. I have wake up at a certain time, workout at a certain time, stretch at a certain time, journal, breakfast. Like, we don't really think about these things until something traumatic happens, like a cancer journey, a breast cancer journey, or whatever, to then say, nope, slow down. Got to put this on my calendar. It's non-negotiable. It's me time.
Yep. Well, and you just ended with the thing that I was going to say, the me time. I can't put I love your level of, like, the details of what things you work in your schedule, but I have some anxiety I'm still working through on my schedule when I have too many things. So I literally have a block, and it's not even right now on my calendar. It's just, I know my non-negotiable is me time in the morning.
Right.
And, you know, I don't show up to my desk until 9, sometimes later. Right. And I like that. And it's serving me and my healing well.
Right. We just have to find the tools that work for the person, the individual. Exactly. Just like you said, I need to see it. When I do a block, like you just said, oh, I'll go do something else.
Yeah.
I won't stick to what I just said I was going to do. So you see how we're all very different and unique.
Yep.
So
yep.
What a great conversation.
It is. And one thing that is coming to mind here as we talk about the gains is, when you think about now these things we're saying that we did gain from it, if you go back to what we lost, we didn't really lose it. We didn't lose those things. We potentially just had a misrepresentation in our mindset about those things. When you think about identity, for example.
Right. Exactly. There were things that we needed to let go of, certain limited beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right about the word lose or lost. It's really a shift in letting go to serve you better.
Exactly. And I always say that I truly believe that cancer was my wake-up call, but for me too, it's like a diagnosis like breast cancer is devastating. I just can't imagine a person who it's not devastating for, right? But for me, the journey has been transformational. It has transformed me from who I once was, with all the things that weren't serving me, into a better person And I feel like I'm shifting into more of a life that represents my wholehearted living, me showing up as my authentic me. You know what I mean?
Exactly, because I feel the same exact way. With me, I'm just, as we're getting closer to the end of this conversation, I love what I have realized is living with purpose. And that's what I truly learned and gained. Because like you said prior, we were just running around.
Yeah.
Serving everybody else.
I always say I was reacting to life, and now I am more intentionally moving through it in a way that brings me more joy.
Joy.
Yeah.
Joy, fulfillment, everything. Absolutely. Oh, so good.
Yes, this is fabulous. So I always appreciate and love these because, like you said, things come up as we share these things. And I know we're going to start asking our audience for input and just their own thoughts. They can always share their own thoughts. So please do share with us if you've got reactions to this or additional questions. Remember to go check out our page and give us some thoughts or feedback.
Yes, it would be, it would be an honor actually to hear what that is so that we can bring even other topics that we might be not thinking of right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like what's interesting is I imagine like this web of everything we talk about could turn into, 100 other topics, subtopics, whatever.
Absolutely. So more episodes to come.
Yes. All right. Well, thanks, Dina.
Thank you, Maggie.
Always a pleasure.
Yes, it was. Thank you for joining us. We hope you found value in today's episode.
And remember to share your real and raw insights with us by going to healinsideandout.com, where you can also find additional information and resources.